Alan, welcome to you in the United States. Devastating article in the New York Times about Benjamin Netanyahu and his motivation for continuing the war in Gaza, the influence of these far-right headbangers, as many see them, Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, the wider agenda, which has been to expand the settlements in the West Bank and to take control of Gaza, and that Netanyahu is ultimately putting his own self-interest before the interests of Israel. What is your response to it? I mean, I presume you read it, but what's your response?
Well, first, we have to remember who invented Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, and that was the Palestinian leaders, by rejecting the Clinton-Barak offer in 2001 and the Olmert offer in 2007, which would have given the Palestinians a complete state on the West Bank and in the Gaza, 96% of the West Bank, 4% of Israel. They turned it down. And as a result of that, they encouraged the development of the right wing in Israel. I have no brief at all for Ben-Gvir and Smotrich. I've met them both. I don't like them. I think they are undercutting peace, but they don't speak for Israelis. The Israelis want peace. The Israelis wanted a two-state.
The elected officials don't speak for the people, I guess, there.
Solution in 2000, 2001. Bill Clinton said over and over again, they could have had it. And once you turn down a two-state solution the way they did in 2001, don't expect you'll be offered it again. You're going to move a country away from peace if you reject it. And then if you do October 7th, you're going to strengthen the right wing. It's just inevitable. And so the large fault for why the Israelis have moved to electing people like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir lies completely with Hamas and the Palestinian leaders. I'm not saying the Palestinian people deserve this, but they certainly have to look at their own leadership and say, my God, if we had accepted two states in 1948, 1967, and 2000, 2001, 2007, look where we would be today instead of where they are.
Mehdi, your response?
Israelis have no agency, apparently, according to Alan Dershowitz. Everything is the fault of the Palestinians. So many falsehoods in there. There was no Palestinian state offered in 1967. That's when Israel began its illegal occupation of the West Bank and Gaza. And even if we buy this nonsense that Clinton and Barak
how about
offered...
1948?
I didn't interrupt you when you were...
You do notice that the Zionists cannot stop interrupting.
Can I say my point? You've said all your falsehoods. Now I'm going to debunk them. You said that Clinton and Barak offered a state. Not true. At Camp David, both sides turned down the deal. Shlomo Ben-Ami, who was the foreign minister, said, I wouldn't have taken that deal at Camp David, the Israeli foreign minister. Then Taba came along, and Taba fell apart because Barak went to the polls and lost the elections. Ehud Barak lost the elections. He was a lame duck prime minister. Sharon came in. So you can rewrite history all you want. No one believes that's the case. But even if you were telling the truth, which you're not, let's talk about today. Benjamin Netanyahu brags that he's blocked a two-state solution. The guy who you volunteered to be a lawyer for in front of the International Criminal Court, wanted war crime suspect, has openly bragged that I blocked a two-state solution. His words, I blocked a two-state solution. So you can rewrite history all you want. The present day is proof that you're talking nonsense. This Israeli government, this far-right government, has no interest in peace with the Palestinians, only interested in ethnic cleansing. And the best part of listening to you speak about agency, everything you said could be said about Hamas and the Palestinians. The Palestinians would say Hamas is a result of Israelis not giving us our freedom. Hamas is a result of Israelis besieging and boycotting Gaza for decades on end. Hamas is a result of Israeli leadership coming and killing our leaders and imprisoning our leaders. So the same arguments you use to defend genocidal fascists in the Israeli government could be used to defend Hamas.
And the point I would make, Alan, and you can respond to what Mehdi just said in a moment, but the point I would make about Netanyahu, bringing it back to him, is that he didn't have to form a government with Smotrich and Ben-Gvir. He knew what they were like. He knew they were far more to the right than he instinctively was. I don't believe he felt that they represented the wishes of the Israeli people. But I think he also is power mad. And I think that he realized the only way he could get power back was if he did a deal with the devil in this case being Smotrich and Ben-Gvir. And the interesting thing now politically is whether he is building up, and it's slow momentum, but there's a bit of momentum from where he was, but whether Likud could now win an election without these far-right guys. So my question for you would be, I don't think we should give Netanyahu a pass because he got into bed with these guys very willingly. It was his way of getting power.
And staying out of prison.
In other words, you say Netanyahu is a politician in addition to being a statesman. He wanted to win
and a warlord
in the election, because he thought winning the election would be best for Israel, best for his people, and best for world peace. And so he was prepared to make the kinds of compromises that every coalition government makes. I was actually in Israel when he was forming his government, and I met with Smotrich, I met with Ben-Gvir. I urged Netanyahu not to include them in the coalition, but he wouldn't have been prime minister. Who knows what would have happened if that hadn't happened. But remember as well, too, you talk about that the Palestinians were never offered a state. The UN offered them a state in 1948, 1947, the Peer Commission, 1938. The Palestinians don't know how to take yes for an answer. And Bill Clinton put it very well. He said Hamas, and he spoke really about the Palestinians, don't want a state. They want there not to be a Jewish state. Palestinianism, the focus on the Palestinians, as distinguished from focused on many other groups in the world that deserve statehood, the focus on Palestinianism is destruction. Bill Clinton says Hamas does not want a state. It just wants to kill Jews and kill Israelis. Now, how do we move forward from this? What we move forward from this is Hamas accepts the Israeli peace offer, which they have now rejected. Let's get the...
Again, why make any deals with these people who break every deal they get into? They've broken every ceasefire you have heard about for the past 6 months. Like every single time, they just immediately go and break it. So why would you sign a peace deal with someone who doesn't want peace and is going to break a ceasefire?
Hostages back. Let's make peace. Let's have a process which could conceivably lead to a two-state solution. Look, I don't blame Netanyahu for saying you can't have a two-state solution now. You can't have a state where on its border you have Hamas running Gaza, where they've sworn to do October 7th again and again and again and again and again. You can't have that kind of a state. So we all hope the goal is a two-state solution. The goal is to get rid of Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, but the Palestinians have to come to the bargaining table legitimately, end the war, return the hostages, and then we can move forward.
Okay, before I let Mehdi respond to that, and he will, my response to that would be, for the same reason that you can't let Hamas have power going forward because they are wedded to the destruction of Israel, in the same way, you could argue now, I think pretty clearly, that the Israeli government, the current one, is wedded to the total destruction of Gaza. And in fact, in Smotrich, out of his own mouth came a plan to cleanse the Strip completely of Palestinians. So there's not much difference here in terms of the intent or rhetoric. Certainly from people like Smotrich. And then it comes down to, well, what influence do they have? And everyone tries to downplay it. But the New York Times makes it crystal clear that big deals have been on the table and Smotrich has refused to countenance them and has threatened to bring down the government if it goes ahead.
Well, there is a big difference between Hamas, which murders innocent people and babies and children, and Israel, which defends itself against such actions. Now,
but Israel is killing so many...
There are videos of them shooting children and old ladies and medics to come to help the old lady and the baby. This is insane. These people will sit here and gaslight you right to your face as if that information's not out there everywhere. I've watched an interview with an IDF soldier who says it's good to kill children, they want you to do that. This is the military. Our government is trying to intertwine with our own military. I want you to tell me if you think that's good for America, that we intertwine with warlords who murder the innocent and will kill their own people instead of letting them be taken as hostages. Tell me if that's the people you want in our military.
Yeah, but Alan, we've had this conversation. Israel is losing people like me, right? And many like me who had a lot of support for Israel's right to defend itself because of the sheer volume of innocent children in particular that are being slaughtered on a daily basis. Now, it's an arguable point
it doesn't
whether
even
everything
compare.
the IDF is doing is intentional or not. They say none of it's intentional, but they are killing a staggering number of children in the process of going after Hamas.
Let's just remember one point. One of the greatest days in American history is June 6, 1944, the greatest generation. They killed so many more civilians in the process of ending Nazism. Another great day was VJ Day. I was old enough to remember it. They killed 100,000 or more civilians. Israel is doing far, far less than the United States and Great Britain did. When your people are endangered, when your children are murdered and your women are raped, then you do engage.
This dude is acting like he shouldn't have, like, is he trying to match the numbers? That was a world war. You're attacking a country that doesn't have a military and is pretty much just like a little town on the side of your country. There's a big difference here. Yeah, I don't think you're going to reach the same numbers in World War II. I would hope not, because you'd have to kind of get people outside of Gaza for that.
In actions, and particularly, remember, in England and in the United States, the enemy wasn't hiding among civilians, whereas Hamas brags about the fact that its civilians are martyrs. We want them to die. The goal, the tactic of Hamas is let's get Israel to kill as many civilians as possible, 50,000, 60,000, and then we can get Piers Morgan to turn against them. That's their goal. They are targeting you, and you're
mission accomplished.
You're accepting it because that's their goal. And I don't blame you. Good people support Hamas, or at least oppose Israel, because they don't understand
I don't support
that
Hamas.
all these deaths are the result. No, I'm not saying that. I say good people do. Some people do. The people who march in New York or oppose Israel because they don't fully understand the tactic of Hamas to kill as many.
No, I understand that. Okay, I want to go to Mehdi. I want to go to Mehdi. Okay. Alan, I fully understand the tactic.
His theory here is that Hamas is tricking Israel into killing all the old people and children. Like, that's what they're trying to do.
Give Hamas. What I don't understand.
No, I understand.
What I don't understand are the current tactics of the Israeli government, which seem to be not a lot better. Mehdi, your response.
I mean, I don't know what to respond to. So much was said, and so much nonsense there was said about violence and killings by someone, as I say, who's volunteered to defend Netanyahu at the International Criminal Court, where he's been indicted with the former Israeli defense minister for war crimes.
I'm proud of that.
And crimes against humanity. Of course, you're proud of it.
Proud to defend war criminals. You should be, buddy.
Because you don't value Palestinian life. Let's just deal with some things you said. Number one, you talked about deals and negotiations. Gershon Baskin, who is the only Israeli negotiator to have ever successfully negotiated with Hamas, keeps saying, he said it just the other day, go check his Twitter feed, that he has communications from Hamas saying, we have offered the Israeli government a full ceasefire. We will leave government. We will not govern Gaza. We will return all the hostages in return for a permanent ceasefire. Israel doesn't want a permanent ceasefire because Smotrich and others want 60 days and then they go back to the killing when the hostage is released. He's offered a permanent end to the war. Israel doesn't want a permanent end to the war. That's what Baskin is saying. Secondly, you talk
almost like it was just ethnic cleansing from the beginning. We got to get this land kind of just destroyed so we can build our new Riviera, Gaza Riviera or whatever, and have Israeli people there. Almost like it was a plan, right?
Talk about killing of kids.
I do. I would like that.
You talk about killing of kids. I mean, the Israeli military does intentionally kill children.
Deliberate.
Let's read 972. Israeli publication interviewed 7 Israeli soldiers and officers, peers who returned from Gaza. Just last week, in several cases, the soldiers said Israeli troops deliberately targeted children. There was a boy who entered the zone. He didn't do anything. Other soldiers claimed to have seen him standing, talking to people. That's it. And they dropped a grenade from a drone. In another incident, soldiers tried to kill a child riding a bicycle.
And they get prosecuted for it.
So they have not been prosecuted, Alan. Don't lie on television where people can fact you.
To be clear, Mehdi has video of some of these. He pulled it out in the last debate I did of him versus Joe Walsh. He actually had video of old ladies getting their heads blown off and then like children getting shot to go help them. It was just insane. And still Joe Walsh tried to just act like, no, we don't know what that is. You don't know what you're looking at. That's what you're saying? You can't see that that's a murder? Like a murder of an innocent old lady and a child? Oh,
none of them have been
prosecuted. Yes, they have been. I know they have been.
Which soldier was prosecuted for dropping a grenade on a child?
There are dozens of them
on national TV. Piers Morgan can come back on the next episode and tell everyone that you're not telling the truth.
Dozens of them have been prosecuted.
Not a single Israeli soldier has been prosecuted for deliberately killing a Palestinian child. That is a lie. You're a demonstrable lie. Everyone watching right now.
I'm sorry. You can't say hang on. Just to be clear, Alan, what Mehdi is saying is that no Israeli soldier has been prosecuted for deliberately killing a Palestinian child since this war began. Is your information different to that?
absolutely different. I know for a fact because I was involved in the negotiations with the International Criminal Court, and I arranged for Khan to come to Israel and see the evidence of what has been done, how people have been prosecuted, how the Israeli legal system has been responsive. So I have all the data and all the information.
Name them. Come back on this show and name those soldiers.
It's true that they've been prosecuted.
Come back on this show, Alan, and name those soldiers. I challenge you. Now, I'll finish my point. You interrupted me. Hold on. You interrupted me. I never interrupted you. You've interrupted me twice now on this show.
I didn't interrupt you.
You did, actually. You interrupted to make false claims.
I didn't ask Alan a question.
Well, let me finish my point. Actually, my second point, Piers, was to you. I dealt with the Gershon basket and the deliberate killing of kids. They just killed 6 kids queuing up for water.
About to talk about
yesterday. They killed 9 kids queuing up for nutritional supplements last week. Stop interrupting, Alan. Everyone can see you do it.
And it's under investigation.
Stop interrupting, Alan. Otherwise, I'll do it to you and you really won't like it. Piers, let me make my point to you that I'm trying to make. You mentioned the New York Times. I'm glad you've mentioned the New York Times several times. The New York Times piece, the long piece, has a lot in there. 2 important points for you, Piers. I've been coming on the show for over a year talking to you about Gaza. Last April and July, the New York Times reports that Netanyahu's own generals told him, there's no military strategy left. There's nothing more we can do. Stop this war. Netanyahu overrode them. So when I was on this show and you were telling me, of course, they're just defending themselves. What else should they be doing? At that time, when I was on this show, Piers, generals were telling Netanyahu there's no war left to be had. They also make it very clear in this piece that the government would have fallen apart had Netanyahu not prolonged the war because he wanted to avoid prosecution. And I'm sorry that we needed the New York Times to say that, because I was saying that on this show to you, Piers. Many people were saying that this war is about Netanyahu trying to avoid prison. This is about Netanyahu trying to avoid prison. I know Alan is an expert on criminals. He's defended some of the worst criminals in the world.
Lawyers do defend criminals.
Well, he defends some of the worst people. Netanyahu.
Yeah, but lawyers.
No one forced him to defend these
lawyers some of the best.
Piers, no one forced him to go volunteer to defend Benjamin Netanyahu.
You can't make aspersions against lawyers.
I can.
Since when can't you make aspersions against lawyers? They're blood-sucking leeches. Why can't you say that?
Actually, I can say you don't need to.
Unless they're a subscriber.
It's not very credible to do that.
Really?
Lawyers do their job.
Hold on, Piers. Somebody forced Alan Dershowitz to defend Netanyahu. He said he's proud to do it. No one forced him to do it.
Which criminal should he defend?
I'm proud to do it.
You're proud to defend Benjamin Netanyahu.
He's a criminal lawyer.
You're proud to defend Benjamin Netanyahu, Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein. You defend the worst people in the world.
I was proud.
Okay.
Yes. And I was proud to defend Bill Clinton, and I was proud to defend Ted Kennedy. I've defended people I've also defended Palestinians who were charged with offenses in Israel. I've also defended Palestinian students at Harvard who wanted to put up a Palestinian flag.
Have you defended Netanyahu's corruption trial? I think you've only defended his war crimes.
But you know what, Mehdi? I do think it's a very lame.
No, I've been involved in his corruption trial too.
It's a very. I've always felt, and a lot of people try this with Alan Dershowitz, because there are lots of things you can argue with Alan about what he believes. But when people go ad hominem about him being a lawyer defending bad
Piers,
people...
Well, I'm going to respond now since
most criminal lawyers I've ever met at some stage defend pretty dodgy people.
Piers, look at
their job, literally their job.
We're looking at our cameras. Look in your camera and say honestly that you would say to Saddam Hussein's law or Slobodan Milosevic's law or Vladimir Putin's law, you wouldn't say a word about people who choose in the West to go defend those people? Yes, you would. It's just you give Netanyahu a pass. I see him in the same league as Saddam Hussein, Vladimir Putin, Slobodan Milosevic. If a Westerner chooses to go defend these people, no one forced him to. I'm going to question their moral
judgment. Do they have a right to defend?
Of course they have a right to a defense.
Then they should have a right.
But no one forced.
Well, hang on. Then they should have a right to have a lawyer defending them.
Of course.
You understand that?
Understood.
That's how the legal system works.
But you can still question the morals for defending a monster. Like just personally, I would not take that case because it would conflict with my morals. I would not want to defend someone who murdered children. I just wouldn't do it. And I know they deserve a defense. So defend yourself or find someone who does have morals like that. I couldn't do it.
If a British justice hold on, Piers. If a British lawyer volunteered to go defend Putin, you wouldn't cast any moral aspersions on them. Don't lie, Piers. You know you would.
So just to be clear, who should Alan be defending? Give me some criminal names.
People in New York, people wherever he lives.
Which criminals?
Why does he have to go defend Netanyahu?
They got ambulances all over the place. Just chase one. Have fun.
Well, give me some names.
Hold on. Why do you have to go defend Netanyahu?
I do have.
I think it's a crazy.
I
look at vile people and I wonder, why would you volunteer to go defend that person?
Because they're lawyers. Anyway, let's move on to the more substantive part of this. I mean, Alan, this.
Which was the point. Lawyers don't have a lot of morals usually.
Incident that Mehdi referenced, the strike on a water distribution point at a Gaza refugee camp. They killed 10 people, including 6 children, wounded 17 more. The IDF said it intended to hit an Islamic Jihad militant, but a technical error caused the missile to miss its target. But, having technical errors that wipe out 6 kids in a refugee camp at this stage of this war.
Terrible.
And these stories are coming every day now. How does this end?
War is hell, and these kinds of accidents happen.
War usually has 2 countries that are fighting each other, or 2, regions, two similarly matched things. Not one side that has nuclear weapons and the other side that has rocks. Like, that's not war. That is not war. That is, I don't even know what you'd call that. Like, it'd be like the Washington Generals versus the Harlem Globetrotters, because it's going to be a beatdown. One's going to win. So you just don't have to destroy everything in sight. We know you're stronger.
Happen all the time. Many Israelis have been killed by Israeli-friendly fire. Many, including a relative of mine who was killed by friendly fire. Accidents happen. Israelis immediately announced that they would investigate, and if warranted, it might have been a pure accident, but if warranted, there'll be prosecution. Israel prosecutes its own criminals, and it does it all the time. And of course, Hamas rewards them. The Palestinian Authority pays terrorists to kill, pay for slay. There's an enormous difference. The United States government had many cases of accidental killings during every war we fought. And the difference between a democracy and a tyranny is that in a democracy, you investigate. And you investigate.
Adam, before I go back to Mehdi, just on a profound level, I ask you this question. In what way is it remotely proportionate that Israel's now killed anything between 70 and 100,000 people on the Palestinian side, of which, let's say a quarter, maybe a third are Hamas terrorists? We don't know. But let's say that is the proportion of that number that have been killed, which means maybe 60,000 civilians have been killed. In what way is that remotely proportionate to an attack that killed 1,200 people, of which I think 800 were civilians?
Plus, if you look at the numbers here, there's a lot less Gazans than there are Israelis. So they killed a tiny fraction of the Israeli population. So they just leveled the entire city, dropped every building to the ground, murdered everyone in sight, and got 100,000 or more dead people to take up for the 1,200 out of like the million, I think 1 million people that live there or something around that number.
And wounded many more, and kidnapped 250. It's so disproportionate now that what concerns me about this, if I'm an Israeli, a moderate Israeli, so not a far-right Israeli or an extremist or any of these things, I'm just an average Israeli citizen watching what my government is doing in Gaza now and seeing the fury that is building around the world to this daily slaughter. This is terrible for Israel. It's terrible for Israel's reputation. I think it's dangerous.
I agree.
It's dangerous for Jewish people. I think that the rising tide of anti-Semitism was despicable when it happened in the aftermath of October the 7th. It highlighted a cancer in the world, that people would react to that attack by being openly anti-Semitic towards Jewish people. But now a lot of that anti-Semitism, I'm sure, is being fueled by what is happening in Gaza. And I think, so I feel for Jewish people too. So I just, to me, none of this makes any sense now. You agree?
Well, of course it doesn't make, yes, and that's why Hamas is winning. Hamas is succeeding. Hamas set out to turn the world against Israel, and they realized that if they murdered 1,200 people, kidnapped people, there would be a reaction. And then they went further, and they hid themselves beneath mosques and schools, and they generated the kind of killing that results in good people like you changing your mind about Israel. That's Hamas's strategy. Hamas is winning. Hamas prevailed on October 7th,
Israel is
and
losing.
It's going to repeat it over and over again.
I think Israel is losing in the court of public opinion.
So this guy is trying to sell you now that the people of the Hamas people are willing to kill themselves so that they can make Israel like unpopular. Sure, okay, and y'all are letting them win, I guess, because y'all are definitely trying to kill a bunch of them.
There are
That's my point. That I agree with you.
Yeah.
That's my point.
But then the strategy
Hamas
is losing.
winning. Israel, what's the alternative? The alternative is to let No, of course, let's stop the war, and Israel has offered to do it. Just today,
That's not true.
Israel put an offer on the table that has been rejected. The point that I want to make, let me just finish my point. The point I want to make is Hamas had a strategy. We know there are captured documents that say it. That is, get Israel to kill as many Palestinian civilians as possible, and it will turn Piers Morgan against Israel because he's a good and decent person. And the good and decent people in the world on college campuses will turn against Israel. That's Hamas's strategy. We can't let it prevail, because if we do, they'll do it over and over and over again.
Alan, just to be clear, I haven't turned against Israel. I've turned against the current. I want to be very specific, because people love to throw around these phrases.
I agree with you. I apologize. I agree.
I've become increasingly critical of the Israeli government strategy in Gaza. That's my specific position. I'm not against Israel.
That's their goal.
Pierce was at stage one here. That's stage one. Stage two is, yes, I'm against Israel at this point.
Israelis
I agree with you.
or Jewish people. And
I agree.
When people conflate it, I think it's really disingenuous.
So,
all right, Mehdi.
So, a few things.
I agree with you, and I apologize for any implication to the opposite. But that has been the strategy.
Okay, well,
and they're prevailing, and we can't let that strategy succeed.
Yeah, but Alan, that is always the terrorist strategy.
It was
the strategy of Al-Qaeda. It was the strategy of ISIS. So
that's right.
Yeah, but
that's right. And the United States overreacted too.
Let me get Mehdi's response. Mehdi.
So, a lot was said there again. Yeah. Let me try and respond. This is insane to suggest that Israel has accidentally killed 17,000 children. Anyone who says that should be laughed off television, whether they're a professor of law or not. 17,000 people were not killed accidentally. The children who were killed in a waterline were not killed accidentally. The children lining up, 9 who were killed last Thursday for nutritional supplements, as UNICEF says, outrageously for UNICEF aid, were not killed accidentally. Children who were shot in the head by snipers were not killed accidentally. I have friends of mine, doctors, who have gone out to Gaza and have come back and said, we saw kids were brought to hospital with sniper shots, bullets to the head, to the chest. Multiple American doctors have said that. Farouz Sidwa, Mark Perlmutter, Irfan Galaria. Go Google it. People don't believe me. So it's nonsense. Israel is killing kids deliberately, has done so for the last 21, 22, whatever so months. You can't push this bullshit line anymore about people were hiding under hospitals.
No, you disagree?
We've seen it on tape, Piers.
Okay,
we've seen kids killed in cold blood on tape. You've seen it. I've seen it.
Do you disagree? Do you disagree with what Alan said, that this was Hamas's deliberate strategy?
I don't know what Hamas's deliberate strategy was.
And
if it was, by the way, Piers,
hang on, let me finish the question. They created a vast tunnel network in which they hid, but left the civilian population to be slaughtered. So, in other words, I think it's perfectly rational to agree with what Alan said about the Hamas strategy.
Yeah, but hold on. What's interesting?
So because they build tunnels, that means that they are trying to get everybody killed? Like, that's not really what that means. They just don't want to get killed, and they would assume that most sane people aren't going to blow up everybody on top of the land so that they can get to the people under the land. Like, that's just an insane thing to even think. You would think you would find out where the tunnels are and then go inside and invade them and kill everyone in the tunnels. If you were the smartest military, like everybody says they are, why wouldn't they just go find where the tunnels are, go in the tunnels and kill everybody down there? Then you didn't have to kill any innocents, and then you don't get to do your ethnic cleansing and destroy all the buildings. So now they're going to just stay there. So that's why they didn't do it that way, Pierce.
And as you pointed this out, why do it then? If we all know that's the strategy, no one forced Israel to go kill 100,000 people, just like, the Vietnam, the US, we burned the village to save it. No one forced Israel.
Also, we know what's under the pyramids now. Are you telling me they don't have any way of using radar and sonar to see where tunnels are? Come on, man.
To drop 2,000-pound bombs on crowded refugee places. No one forced Israel to bomb hospitals. No one forced Israel to sniper shoot children. No one forced Israel to kill women holding up white flags, as we saw on tape with our own lying eyes. No one forced Israel to do any of that, which is why Karim Khan, the chief prosecutor, which is why the ICC judges all said Netanyahu and Gallant need to face war crimes charges.
A corrupt prosecutor.
Hold on. Just to be clear on this. I know this propaganda is coming from Theodore Myron, who was a former chair of the International Tribunal on Yugoslavia, a former Rwanda tribunal judge, former legal advisor to the Israeli Foreign Ministry, former Israeli ambassador. Theodore Myron, 94 years old, descendant of Holocaust survivors. He advised on that indictment and said, yes, Netanyahu should be indicted on the basis of all the evidence I've seen. He knows far more about war crimes than you do.